Welcome to the Association 100 podcast. The A100 podcast is an extension of our Association 100 bi-monthly newsletter that focuses on best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies and tactics that work in the world of associations. The podcast will feature meaningful conversations with association professionals across the country, taking a deeper dive into trending topics, offering insights that both inform and inspire.
Welcome back to another episode of the A100 podcast. I'm Colleen Gallagher, and I'm joined by my co-hosts and my ONU teammates, Meghan Henning and Christine Stay. Today, we're going to talk about a really important topic for associations, and that's professional development and its role in employee development, recruitment, retention, all those really important things. So one of the first things that popped up when I started Googling some stats to prep for today's podcast was this poll of association advisor readers that identified continuing professional education as a top member priority. Now, as I look further into this, I realized the poll was from 2016, so not new data, clearly not a new topic though. But I wasn't surprised because I think for a lot of years, associations talked more about professional development as it pertained to their members, and they didn't always prioritize it for employees. That's certainly not true of all associations, but I do think for many, it took COVID and the Great Resignation to truly make it a real priority. Associations Now ran an article last summer that said recruitment and retention remained top of mind concerns for employers. They noted that research has shown for many employees, the decision to stay or leave is influenced by whether an organization offers staff professional development opportunities. And then it cited an Emeritus Global Workplace Skills Study. This interviewed 6,600 professionals worldwide, and of that group, 74% would choose to work at an organization that invested in their education over one that didn't. So let that sink in. That's a huge number. So the three of us combined have worked for a lot of associations and nonprofits over the years, and we've seen some really invest in their employees and their growth, and seen some others that not so much. Meghan, what about you? How do you feel about whether or not this is something associations are prioritizing?
My gut reaction is I have worked at an association that fully prioritized it. It made it part of my goals. It was something you had to choose to do. And that empowered me to feel like I should be doing it. At a point in my career, maybe that I thought, oh, this is just extra work. They did not make it feel that way. And then I've worked in an association where there was just never the time or never the money to do it. And I love that statistic of 74% would choose to work at an organization that invested in their education over one that didn't, because I do think that it has to come together from both the employee and the employer. Because when we were doing this prep, there was a Forbes article that said there was a study that showed 216% higher income per employee than companies without a formalized training. And that is huge, right? And then according to a different report from the Executive Search Group, it said 86% of professionals said they would change jobs if a new company offered them more opportunities for professional development. So if you're an association leadership listening, that should scare you a little bit. 86% of these professionals would leave. And the joy of working at an association, as we all know, is that nothing's ever really the same. There's a lot changing, the members change, the board changes, the issues change, and you really do have to keep up with it. And when are you going to do that? In my opinion, it's only if it comes from the top and management and leadership say to their employees, this is a priority for us and it's a priority for you. So I think it needs to be both.
Yeah, and I agree. When you were talking about who needs to do this, and in associations, nonprofits, as you said, everyone wears so many hats. That's what it's always been like. And topics are changing constantly. Everyone's wearing different hats. So I think that's where professional development is very beneficial. Education in general is. And I think that it's for everyone. One of the mistakes that a lot of people do is they either do it just for people that are just starting out in their role. people that need the higher education because they're upper management or COO, and not sometimes that missing in the middle, or everyone needs it.
Yes.
And there's also a way to personalize those kind of recommendations from yourself or from your employer that's going to personalize to your role and your career goals. And that also stems from having those initial conversations. I've worked at places where you talk about your goals, other places you don't. And I think having that
Right.
conversation and sitting down is so crucial first to establish, okay, where do we go from here? What's your overall goal? What's the step ladder process for you growing in this association, growing in this company?
Right. And I think that for people who are just starting their career and people for changing jobs, that should be something that they ask. That should be part of your questions for your potential employer. What type of professional development opportunities are you offering? And if they look like a deer in the headlights, what is a professional development? We don't have time for that. Maybe that's something you need to consider. It sounds like with 86% of professionals saying that they would change job if a new company offered them more, employees want this. This is definitely something they want.
Yeah, and Megan, I'd echo really what you both touched on earlier about it being for everyone, but really that top-down leadership buy-in is so important, because if younger employees or mid-level employees don't see their leaders engaging in professional development and caring about it, then why should they, or why should they really believe it is a priority for them? And then the next piece of that is implementing it, and how do you have
Yes.
successful professional development? And I really think it's a two-way street. Can't just be all on the employer to develop this whole plan and this is what you're going to do. It also shouldn't just be on the employee to say, oh my God, I have to figure out what I'm taking, how I'm doing this. So I think you need to dedicate time to look ahead at the year and work together to say, your employee can say, these are some of the things I'm interested in learning. Employer comes back to say, that's great. Here's where I want you to improve. This is one that is an area I'm looking at. This is another area I think you could excel in. These are the opportunities, whether it's outlining some free virtual webinars that might fit into that, finding one workshop that they could do, things like that. Having that plan mapped out for a full year, having metrics set to it. It doesn't have to be percent or whatever. It could really just be that you're going to participate in these, or you're going to show me how you took this and put it into place for our members. Something that makes it real and tangible, and put quarterly check-ins on the calendar. If not, you're going to get to December and look at the calendar and say, uh-oh, didn't do any
Yes.
professional development this year.
That happens
And now you're going to take
so many times.
a random thing that you don't care about and no one cares about. And it's just a waste of money and time. I could not agree more. And I think you're right that it is a two-way street. And I think that when I have worked at a place that prioritized it, it really was a priority. And it allowed me, or made me, take a look at, well, what did I want to do? Was I just there to show up and do the work, or did I hope to excel and climb a ladder? And I think that allows you to do that. You can say to your employer, look, hey, I'm a senior manager in communications, but one day I would really like to be the director. Could I take a couple leadership classes, because eventually I will have to lead this team? And I think that you shouldn't wait for your employer to say it. It should really just be a great conversation. It can be. I think it has the potential to be a great conversation between you and your boss. Like, where do you see me going? Let me tell you where I think I should go. And I think it's a great way to have this conversation, to be on the same page. And then, as you put it, to have the metrics, all of those things. If you're taking leadership classes and seminars, it benefits everything. You're leading a member group, you're talking to your members about different PR aspects or something like that. It benefits everyone.
And going back, I'd love to know what the stats are of how much professional development gets done in December or the end of it each year. I'd love to know what kind of stat there is on that, because it's so true. I've seen so many places that you don't do these quarterly check-ins, you don't do these metrics, and all of a sudden you get to your end of year review, which sometimes tends to be in December of the year, and you're like, oh man.
That's so funny. I feel like new market opportunity for us. We need to start offering some association professional development every December.
Every December. There we go. And so I want to go also into, you were talking about at the initial stage of the interview process. And I think this is great for the younger generation to hear this, that you might not be as aware of what you should be asking in these interviews. This should be one of them. And
Yes.
I know that there was a detailed generational report done by LinkedIn regarding professional development, and Gen Z said that they're passionate about professional development, which I think that unfortunately the media and the news makes it seem like they're not passionate, that they're just showing up for a paycheck. So I think they get a bad rep in that way. But in this LinkedIn report, it said that 76% of Gen Z employees believe that learning is a key to a successful career. So again, recognizing that not only starting in a new role or you've been in a role for a long time, but also the age difference too. Somebody that might just be coming out of college, yeah, they maybe went to college, but they still want to continue that continued education.
I
Yeah.
love hearing those stats. And I think we've seen it in the Gen Z employees we've hired. They have that passion, that desire to learn. I think, especially the Gen Z kids coming into careers right now, half their college career was during COVID. They didn't have the same college experiences that so many of us had. And I do think for them, it's really important to have help laying out that career path and how professional development fits into it. And I think that's something they really desire. I'm excited to hear that many are interested in it. And I do think from an employer perspective, you need to then step up and help them map that out and see what that looks like for them.
Yeah, I would agree. And they say that Gen Z, because they have grown up with the internet and every other device, that this is the most educated generation of people this country's ever produced. It just goes to show that, of course, once they've graduated from college, they don't think it's over because they're continuously wanting new knowledge and new skills because that's how they've been functioning for their entire existence. So I think that's great.
Right. And then Megan, you talked about the leadership piece of it. And I love that, and that thought of asking not just to take courses in your skills. So for us it would be, let's find a pitching course or something like that, but to
Right.
actually take a leadership course. And I think something that we do and that we did when we were on associations too was to give younger employees a chance to manage interns, because that is a
Hmm.
huge learning
Mhm.
experience. No one
Yes.
knows how to be a manager. Some people are very skilled at it right away, but it isn't something you just come in knowing. You need to get that experience early. And you don't want someone at 35 getting their first management report
Oh
and
my
all of a
gosh.
sudden they have
No,
no idea.
you don't. And that leadership, having a good leader and a good mentor and a good boss is the reason many people, I don't recall the statistic offhand. I want to say that they say that the number one reason to leave a job sometimes is your manager. And
Yep.
everyone, we've all worked for people who do not know how to manage, who could have benefited from a leadership course. So I think you're right. You don't want to take that at 35. You want to be thinking about that. Is that two steps ahead? And great if it is, but don't wait until you're there. Just get ready for it.
Yep. And it's not just about managing people, it's about getting opportunities to
Hmm.
present in front of people, even if it's internal. If you're in a position, maybe you're in an IT position at your association, but go to that senior staff meeting, ask for an invite for a meeting, and say you'll take the notes and do the minutes and something like that, to be able to be in front of them, to see what leadership is doing and get exposure. More often than not, I bet your leadership would love to invite you for one of those meetings and have you sit in and listen in. So there's a lot of things you can do to nurture that growth, to really learn and to develop skills that you wouldn't just get in the course of doing your regular job every day.
That's a great point.
And
That's
that
great
go-
advice.
and then that leads to great talent acquisition, meaning you want those kind of people that are going to step up or that are going to want to learn those management skills and those leadership skills. And I know that's what any employer wants, is they want the best of the best. And that's how you go about doing it, is getting those motivated people.
Yeah, and man,
Yeah.
hiring is hard. It really is. And there's a lot you have to do now to attract the top talent. I think for years it was saying, we have a great company culture. Look at our ping pong table and come to our happy hours every Friday and things like that. And people don't want that anymore. People want their work-life balance. A lot of people want hybrid opportunities. A lot of the younger generation is actually asking for in-person opportunities. Now, they're not saying they want to be in the office 5 days a week necessarily, but they did so much of their schooling and their early careers remote. They want to interact. They want to learn in
Hmm.
person. So I think there's a lot you have to offer. Hybrid offering is not easy for a lot of associations, and it changes their way of doing things. You have to have competitive salaries. And I know it's not required in every state now. There's just a few states that have passed it, but post the salary. Don't
Yeah.
make it a game. It doesn't help anyone if you're trying to get the cheapest
So
person.
true.
Just do it. Make everyone's life easier, hire smarter, and then you're not interviewing someone that wants $50,000 more than you're offering, and it's a total waste of everyone's time. Or you're not just putting out for the lowest bidder or who will take the lowest salary, and then you get what you pay for.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
I think another piece that fits into that talent acquisition is knowing that they have a career path. And this might segue a little more into retention, but we talked about the professional development, making a plan, having check-ins. The other thing that we do at ONU, and I wish more associations would embrace, is to talk through the career path. Where do you go from here? If you're sitting somewhere as a membership coordinator or a communications coordinator at an association and you have no idea what's next, can you get a promotion? What do you have to do to get that promotion? What are the next steps? How do you go from here? If no one ever tells you that and you're not getting any feedback, you're going to go get that promotion by going somewhere else. So that's an important piece of that too.
I think that is fundamentally one of the biggest mistakes that just anybody makes. When I look back at my career, there's a lot of zigzagging around, right? I don't regret it. I learned a lot. I went to a bunch of different places, but I ended up where I want it to be, but 10 years later. And again, I think that it's so beneficial to the employee and to the employer to say, to have that conversation and say, this is where you could be if you take this path. And it's helping them. And because the other thing is, we've worked with people and we've hired people who maybe don't want to be on this path. And the only way they would know that they were on it is if you have these types of conversations, because maybe you don't want to be on this path.
Yeah, that's so true. And that just sets everyone up for failure
Mm-hmm.
if there's no communication and there's no thought or plan. So I think that's really important. Another piece where we've done a lot of learning over the last couple of years is the importance of an onboarding experience. And I'm going to turn that over to Christine, who's our resident expert in that, and let her share some thoughts here.
Yeah, again, I've been at places where you're thrown into the wolves at first and you have no idea what you're doing. And it's an awful feeling. Anyone starting a new job, you have that little bit of excitement, but you mostly have that I'm going to throw up in my mouth kind of feeling. And at least I know I do, but everybody I talk to
Uh-huh.
is the same way. And having an onboarding process, taking the time. And the good thing is, if you as the employer take the time to do an onboarding process and actually lay out a first 2-week agenda and an actual checklist process, that you can use every single time somebody starts. You just have to change it a little bit. So you put in the work at first, and then you can use that as anybody comes aboard later on. But you have to be able to be there for those people when they start initially. Have them meet everyone, even if it's somebody that's not in their department, because that's going to make it feel more of a team. And make sure that they feel comfortable asking questions from day one, because that's going to go along with that open communication that we're talking about with your career paths. It's going to go with the open communication about staying within the association, staying within the company. It is just so important to feel like, okay, I belong here. I feel respected, and I feel as though I'm being taken care of and seen as an employee, a new employee.
Yes. I will say though, I've been working in the workforce for about 30 years, and my idea of onboarding was me sitting in the HR department's office, signing 10,000 forms, and then being released back to my desk. So it wasn't until Christine, you and Colleen kept talking about the successful onboarding process, and I was thinking, how successful could this possibly be? All these people are going to have to do is just fill out this like benefits paperwork. And it wasn't until I saw all that you put together where I was like, oh, what a great way to welcome an employee and get everybody on the same page. And I do think that is so important. But I will say, I do not recall maybe anywhere I've worked that had a process like this. And I'm sure they're more common now, but that really was not that wasn't my experience.
Yeah, same here. I remember one job, 30 days in, still was just making up what I was supposed to do because nobody told me.
Oh
No,
my
there was
gosh.
Right.
no direction. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to choose what to do. And I think it's that couple week thing where it's not just day one, here you go. And then what Christine has also helped us do with ONU is to continue that even further. So while it's not necessarily called our onboarding process, we have 30, 60, 90, and 1 year check-ins. I like to call them a performance check-in rather than a review. I think it's less intimidating. It's more of a partnership. And hey, I want to hear from you too. How are you doing? What are you learning? What do you think about our processes and what we're doing and how this is going? That way, you really are making sure that someone knows the culture, feels valued, knows what they're doing, understands what the goals are and why they're in this role, and not just being like, here we go, I invested all this money to hire someone, hope they figure it out.
And that's the
Right.
thing, isn't it? There's some kind of quote out there about how it's so much cheaper to keep an employee than hire a new employee.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
and that's the thing all this goes back to the retention of keeping the talent that you want. And all of this, the professional development, the open communication, these check-in processes, all of this is so crucial to that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a big thing with employee retention for associations that really gets overlooked a lot is letting everyone understand the goals and getting that buy-in from, again, the top down, and having everyone know what their work they're doing means. I think at associations, you move really quickly, you go from one initiative to the next, and sometimes you're stuck if you're in that lower or mid-level tier of just saying, okay, great, we did all that. I never heard about it. I don't know if the members liked it. I didn't get any feedback. Now we're doing something else. What is the point? And so having that time to take a pause and say, hey guys, our members loved this is what they got out of it. Or, you know what, this missed the mark. This is what we need to do next time for our membership. But providing that feedback loop, that goes a long way in employee retention too, because you don't want to just work for the sake of working. You want to know what you're doing.
Yes. 100%.
So shifting gears to that kind of last piece of the brand culture and an association trying to develop that strong culture, it's really important because association world is a small world.
Yeah,
It really is. And if your association is not a good place to work, leave me people know.
yeah, word
And
gets quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, so how do you do that? How do you develop that brand of being a good place to work? What do you have to have in place for that to happen and have that real culture that people are maybe not excited to come to work every day, but not dreading it?
I guess I would say that to me, it is back to the beginning of this podcast when you said there needs to be this open line of communication. And I think that is very true. And if you feel like you do not know what you're doing, that no one cares about your career path, even if you do, but no one else does, the person signing the check, the person that gives you your review, if no one really cares, I think that will come back to bite you. And I know we have discussed, the three of us, many times. It's hard to be a manager. It's absolutely really challenging to manage people because you have your own work and then you have to do the management. You don't just have somebody report to you. They are more than a direct report. They're your responsibility. And if you aren't really looking out for them, they will leave. And I always think the best employees are those that will take their future into their own hands. And if you don't help with that, they will leave. And I think that is an important piece that will get around. When you see, I remember looking for a position and looking on Indeed, and at one association, there must have been 9 jobs open. And I thought, oh, no, I'm not applying there. That was a big red flag because why are all these people leaving? So I think that you do have to have communications and between your employees and their manager. And I think if you're a manager, you really do have to look out for people and not and elevate them above just being a direct report.
Yeah.
And the other piece is carving the time out because it is so easy. We are so busy every single day of every single year. And it's easy to just be like, we'll work on this later. We'll work on this later. And actually carving the time and developing a plan that will make it successful.
Agreed.
Yeah, if you don't make time, it's not going to happen. It's like
Yeah.
anything in life. This was such a good conversation, and I think something that really matters to so many of our association listeners. But before we go, we're always putting our guests on the hot seat and making them answer our lightning round questions here. We're going to do it for ourselves today and share all of our answers for these. So I'll start with where I grew up. And I grew up in Fayetteville, New York, which is a small suburb right outside of Syracuse. And I loved growing up there, would never go back because I hate the snow and the cold, but it's nice to visit anytime. And it was a great place to grow up. Megan.
I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where it did snow all the time. And now living in Virginia, I miss it because I wish there was snow, but I did love growing up there. It was great to grow up in a very small town.
I grew up in Bricktown, New Jersey, which is right on the Jersey Shore. And I know I get a lot of slack sometimes when I say I grew up at the Jersey Shore. I promise you, I'm not like the people on TV, as fun as they are to watch. But I'm such a beach baby because I grew up about 15 minutes from the beach. And now I live in Long Island, 15 minutes from the beach. And I could be at the beach every single day.
Nice. So next up is Starbucks, and my go-to order, I go to Starbucks all the time. So everyone assumes I'm a coffee drinker. I have never had coffee in my life. I don't drink tea. I get my grande hot chocolate, no whip, and it makes me so happy. I'll drink it every day, whether it's hot or cold. It doesn't matter. I just love my hot chocolate fix.
That's the way I feel about my vanilla sweet cream cold brew. It is
Ooh.
the best way to begin my day.
I would have said coffee up until a few months ago when I actually quit caffeine, but now I'm just all the way a tea person. I never was a tea person, and now I am. So I do love the
Nice.
tea at Starbucks.
Nice. So the next one is, if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work? And it's funny, all of our guests say, yep, definitely, 100%. And I think everyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of a workaholic and is probably surprised that my answer is hell no. I love working. I'm super passionate about it. I love what I do. I love OnWrd and UpWrd. But if I won $20 million tomorrow, no, I would find so many things to do. I would spend more time with my family. I would travel everywhere. I would go on adventures every day. I would have the best time, but I would not work.
Me neither. Me neither, without even hesitation. What's funny is I've asked my husband this question many times, and he's, yes, I would work. And then I laugh and say, I guess with your half, you can continue working, but I will not.
Yep, I guess we all have that in common. I would not. I would do the same thing. I would travel everywhere, spend time with family and friends. I'd also love to use that time to volunteer. And I know that sounds like such a goody two-shoe kind of answer, but I really would love to utilize my skill set and volunteer and help other people.
That's nice.
Yes,
We could definitely find tons of things to do if
Yes.
we won that much
agreed.
money.
Yes.
Agreed. So the last show I binge watched is sadly Bluey. I can't remember the last show I watched for myself, but I watch a
I heard it's
lot of it.
good.
It's great. I actually love it.
That's nice. I am in the midst of binge watching a show called Slow Horses, and I just finished the second season. It's on Apple, and it's so good. And I was like ridiculously excited yesterday when I realized there was a third season. And I would recommend it to anybody who likes a very snarky mystery. It's really good. It
Ooh.
has Gary Oldman
Okay.
in it and
Oh, he's fantastic.
Kristen, I can't think of her name, but it's so good. I would have devoured this like in one weekend, but my husband is like, hey, maybe two at a time. So that's the version of binge that it goes on in my house.
So I just finished Yellowstone. I know I'm way behind the
Oh,
times, but just finished that. Season 5 was a little disappointing. I heard that a lot of people felt that way when it was on, but it's such a good show. And I've never been like, oh, I need to go to Montana or Wyoming. And after that show, I want to go there because it just looks absolutely stunning. It's very different than what Long Island looks like, but it was a good show to watch.
I've heard really good things about that too. I have never seen it, but it's definitely on my list for whenever I have time once again in life.
Not Bluey.
Food you can't live without. No one here will be surprised. It's pizza. I could eat pizza every day, lunch and dinner. It's my favorite food. I do homemade pizza all the time. I'll go out for pizza, even Domino's pizza. There's no bad pizza. I love it all. Except for Pizza Hut. That's gross. Sorry, Pizza Hut fans.
Oh man, I love
Oh, I
Pizza
love
Hut.
Pizza Hut.
Oh
I
my gosh.
love Pizza
It
Hut.
is absolutely the most disgusting pizza there is. It actually looks
So
bad. Like they can't even make it look good in the ads. The only thing is
My
it gives me
God,
good
I
memories of like
love
the
it.
Bucket Club. Oh, it's so disgusting. It tastes like cardboard and like grease.
Wait, I just had this conversation with friends. Did you have Book It growing up?
Oh, I love Bucket. So that's like my good memories of Pizza Hut. But I still
Oh,
don't like the pizza
Megan,
now.
did you have that?
No, I don't
Oh
even know
my
what that
gosh.
is.
It was so great. It was this pin that you would get, and when you read a book, you'd get a sticker to put on your pin, and once it was full, you got a free personal pan pizza.
Yes.
Oh, I would have loved that.
And
I
there was
know. So
I
I would
would
read
have
it now.
loved
Get
that.
both my brother and me free pizzas because my brother wouldn't read anything.
yeah, my husband, he didn't have that, but it makes sense because they didn't really have Pizza Huts growing up. But oh man, I love that. That's so funny.
I would say pizza as well with Pizza Hut pizza, but I will definitely say that in Scranton, pizza is square and it's very particular. And I really feel like it is the world's greatest pizza. And really everything else is just like pretend pizza to me, like ultimately. So if there's any
Sorry, New
people,
Yorkers.
I know I like New York pizza too, but no, you have to have Scranton pizza.
This whole conversation is making me hungry now. I would say the food I can't live without is cheese.
Oh, yeah.
I love cheese where give me a block of cheese and I can just devour that. It's so bad. And any kind of cheese. I like brie and blue cheese. Give me a stinky cheese, any kind of cheese, goat cheese. I just love it. A
Yeah.
cheese board, that's the way to my heart.
Yes. I will say that I think the world's greatest appetizer are cheese and crackers. And it could
Oh,
even be
Oh
like
yeah.
sliced American cheese. And
yep.
I'm like totally
With like
fine
a
with that.
Ritz cracker. I don't care.
Yes.
Yep, that sounds
Yes.
delicious.
I love cheese and crackers. You can't go wrong there for sure.
No.
Okay, so the last one is bucket list travel destination. And I wish I put some thought because I can't decide. I literally want to go everywhere. I love travel
Mhm.
so much, which I know I have the worst travel luck. I don't care. I take it in stride. It can take me 18 hours extra to get somewhere. I'm still gonna love going. Europe is where I've had some of my favorite trips. So would love to get back there and see more of Europe. I've never been to Australia or New Zealand. That would be really cool. I
Mm.
know there's so many places. I'd like to go to Singapore, Tokyo, everywhere.
Yes. I would agree. Even though you have bad travel karma, I am a horrible traveler. I am terrified of being on the plane. So, and I'm medicated, and anyone who's ever sat next to me is very well aware of that. So, I would like to be able to go to Japan, but I feel like I might need to take, I don't know, 6 weeks to get there, where I start off where I take a cruise somewhere and then maybe get on a train or like the thought of being on an airplane for more than like 20 some hours almost feels, I don't know, like death. But every time I look at pictures of Japan, I'm like, oh my God, it would be so beautiful to go there.
Agreed. I hate to say it, I want to go everywhere. I have such wanderlust. I love it. Japan sounds great. I'd love to go to New Zealand because I'd love to see like where they tape Lord of the Rings because again, talk
Yes.
about how beautiful. So Switzerland has been on my bucket list for a long time,
Oh,
and we're going there at the end of this year. So I'm really excited for that because just like the Alps and everything just looks so beautiful, and they have these like small little villages that are so untouched, and you can't even drive there. You have to take a cable car, and so I'm really excited for that. But yeah, I want to go everywhere. It's a problem.
once we all win the lottery,
Yeah, there,
we can go.
there we
The
go.
three
There
of
we
us can
go.
head out.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you guys. This was so fun. I love chatting with both of you. And as always, you bring some really great insights that I know our listeners will love. So thank you. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Association 100 podcast, brought to you by the A100 publishing team, powered by OnWrd UpWrd Marketing and Communications. You can subscribe to the Association 100 podcast on Spotify so you'll never miss out, or listen via our website at theassociation100.com. Follow us for all the latest insights and trends impacting the world of associations. Thanks for tuning in.